Mr. President Jonathan, heads of state and government, excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. 100 years ago, at the start of 1914, Western Africa changed for good. The amalgamation of two parts of what was then the British Empire would be the first step, the second being the Declaration of Independence, 46 years later, towards what is today one of the most powerful and vibrant countries in the region, and indeed in the whole of Africa. This is why I'm so happy and honored to be here in Abuja today, representing the European Union. When our friends celebrate, and 100 years is certainly a good reason to celebrate, we like to join in the celebration. I thank you, President Jonathan, for your kind invitation. Your country, Nigeria, has grasped this historic moment to think about its future role as a key player in West Africa's development, in Africa as a whole, and internationally. Nigeria's people, while strong growth continues, are eager to work towards their future, united and indivisible. 100 years ago, in the course of 1914, my continent, Europe, took a turn for the worse. The escalation that led to the First World War set our countries on the way to unprecedented and incomprehensible destruction. That war, and the next one, the Second World War, would change the worldview of generations of Europeans, so that they would take the first steps towards mending their fractured continent to take it forward to a better future. In a different way, the Europeans too wanted and needed to be united. The European Union they created will always be mindful of the value of peace and development, because it has seen the other side, because our union is itself a product of war, strife, and missed opportunities. We take the lessons we have learned with us in the partnerships we set up internationally, like this partnership with Africa. For that reason, we are, and will always be, eager to work with the whole African continent and Nigeria, that is hosting us today, as they energetically prepare for the next 100 years. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, there is plenty to build that success on. The economy of this country, of more than 170 million people, is one of the two biggest in the continent. With 1 in 2 West Africans being Nigerian, and 1 in 4 people in the whole of Africa, it is a massive pool of human resources and a great source of entrepreneurship at the heart of a fast-growing internal market. And with an impressive stock of energy resources, there is a lot of wealth to start from. No wonder the economy is growing at a healthy pace, about 7% this year. But even more important than Nigeria's natural strengths is what the country makes of them. Nigeria realizes not even an economy of that size can ever be an island unto itself, that such promising resources need careful handling, and that talent needs to be nurtured. As one of your main partners, we too believe in that approach, and we want to support it. The European Union's relationship with Nigeria is broad and deep. Nigeria has one of the biggest diaspora communities in Europe. The European Union is Nigeria's largest trading partner, accounting for 35.4% of exports of Nigeria and 30% of its imports. Nigeria is also one of the most frequent destinations of European investment and business people in Africa. In addition, we have a long and positive tradition of working with the government of Nigeria to increase economic growth and expand social equity. Over the past 6 years, European Development Fund has been particularly active in helping to improve access to water and health services, supporting post-crisis reconciliation and security in the South, and strengthens governance, making peace and security more sustainable. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, important as it is, Nigeria's partnership with Europe goes much beyond the mere bilateral relationship. Housing the headquarters of Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, here in Abuja, Nigeria plays a decisive role in regional integration, which the European Union also actively supports. An important landmark in this field has been reached with the adoption of a common external tariff at the latest ECOWAS summit, which will further increase regional economic integration. This important step has in turn significantly contributed to the successful conclusion of negotiations on the economic partnership agreement. I'd like to commend West Africa for its constructive attitude in this process which made it possible to move forward and reach a deal after more than 10 years of effort. This agreement, expanding the possibilities for trade and investment, is also fully supportive of the region's development prospects and needs. It will stimulate growth in all countries. The next step is the political endorsement by ECOWAS heads of state on the 24th of March, so that we can turn this political agreement, which is so promising for all West Africa's economy, into the economic reality as soon as possible. But ECOWAS is also making great strides in the peace and security field and is taking a lead in tackling challenges of migration, instability and insecurity that affect all countries and that have an impact in the region but also in Europe. That too is something we want to support, that action for peace. Because if the opportunities come from linking up all countries in the region, the challenges also demand cooperation by neighboring countries and beyond. The threat of extremist forces and religious radicalism is affecting Nigeria, but also some of its partners. And on this matter, allow me to say that we were all shocked on Tuesday with the news of an attack in Boniadi which caused the death of 29 young students, the latest in a series of brutal and unjustifiable attacks by terrorists on civilians. Let me offer my deep condolences to the families of the victims and to the Nigerian people. Radicalism, extremism, and hate have no place in our societies and can only deserve our strongest condemnation and rejection. The European Union stands firmly with Nigeria in its fight against the scourge of terrorism. We are determined in assisting the countries in the region to tackle these threats in its widest sense, focusing on the underlying causes of instability and not just on the symptoms. As a telling example, we are currently designing a strategy for the Gulf of Guinea, covering the coastal states from Senegal to Angola, in order to support the countries in the region to coordinate and strengthen their efforts to overcome the threats to maritime security in the Gulf. I believe only collective efforts will succeed. Excellencies and ladies and gentlemen, the relationship between Nigeria and the European Union is also embedded within the broader EU-Africa relations and the jointly agreed EU-Africa strategy. There is no other continent as close to Europe as Africa. Both of our continents continue to change, to become more united internally, to be more ambitious internationally, to take up a more proactive role in the world, and to work together hand in hand to achieve these goals. Africa is now more than ever a place of hope, continuing to record impressive growth figures. In 2012, for example, 8 out of the world's 10 fastest growing economies were African. The IMF predicts Africa's economic growth will be 6% in 2014, the highest rate since the start of the crisis, and 1% more than last year. Private capital inflows have doubled since the outbreak of the global financial crisis. Africa's population is also expected to double in the next 30 years, making it the youngest continent in the world. And Africa is also making important progress towards a more integrated continent under the leadership of the African Union, thus fulfilling the aspirations of Pan-Africanism and African unity. The European Union strongly supports these developments. As ever, Europe has been at your side in continuing its commitment to African development through political cooperation to financial assistance and economic partnerships. In 2012, for instance, the European Union disbursed over half of the world's development assistance of 50.6 billion euros in total, half of which coming through the European Development Fund managed by the European Commission. Trade with Africa has almost doubled compared with 2007, when the joint European Union-Africa strategy was agreed. The European Union is the main trading partner for Africa, accounting for 1/3 of Africa's total trade. Through its Everything But Arms program, the European Union has the most generous and far-reaching trade system in the world, with duty-free and quota-free exports for the least developed countries. And we must continue to evolve together. At the upcoming European Union-Africa Summit at the beginning of April in Brussels, the European Union and African countries will get together at the highest level to further strengthen this relationship and to define our common priorities for the years to come. People, prosperity, and peace will be the leitmotif of our summit. No country in any part of the world can prosper with the burden of a conflict tearing it apart, or can be secure while its population is deprived of basic needs. Recent cases demonstrate that nowadays conflicts can be fueled by the unequal and unfair burden of poverty on different social and ethnic groups, bad governance and the denial of human rights, including the denial of human rights and the denial of the rule of law. They can also stem from corruption, a lack of accountability in political governance, exclusion and marginalization of social and ethnic groups, or lack of perspectives for its young people. This is why the recognition of the link between insecurity, poverty, and governance is at the heart of the European Union approach in external relations, in particular in regions such as the Sahel, the Horn of Africa, or the Great Lakes. This is also why we have been assisting in the full operationalization of the Africa Peace and Security Architecture, APSA, since its creation, by lending political and financial support to the specific role of the African Union in peace and security matters, in articulation with the regional economic communities. The European Union is by far the most important donor for APSA, Africa Peace and Security Architecture, and policies, with the African Peace Facility being the major instrument for this purpose, through which we have channeled already over 1 billion euros for capacity building or peace support operations. We are actively supporting missions from AMISOM in Somalia to MINUSMA in Mali or to MISCA in the Central African Republic. We support the principle of African solutions for African problems. But besides political or financial support, we also participate with personnel. We currently have 9 operations deployed in Africa with over 2,300 men and women serving in support of African efforts to consolidate peace, security, and stability. And we are determined to work further with you in reinforcing African capabilities and capacities to take over the lead whenever and wherever you can. We realize, just like you do, that in today's world, one country's lack of development hampers another country's growth too. That one country's instability poses a threat to another country's welfare as well. That we have to look for common solutions for common challenges, from the fight against terrorism to the fight against climate change, from economic and social development to peace. More and more we need, recognizing this interdependence, to work for more cooperation regionally and globally. Ladies and gentlemen, let me conclude. This conference ends 1 year of celebrations, paying tribute to those that made the country what it is over the last 100 years. On behalf of the European Union, I want to congratulate the authorities and the people of Nigeria. I hope there will be even a better future for those that will live in over the next 100 years. We wish Nigeria and the whole of Africa peace and prosperity. Long live the Federal Republic of Nigeria, long live Africa, long live the cooperation between the European Union and Africa. Thank you.